Hello everybody and welcome back to our faction breakdown series. Now that we've covered the natives of Britannia, we turn towards the invaders, beginning with the great Viking armies of Northumbria and East Engle. The great Viking army made their presence felt across the eastern coasts of the British Isles and have now staked claim to their lands. The Viking settlers haven't forgotten their true Viking roots just yet. They continue to raid and sack enemy territories, receiving a bonus to the income they make from such activities. They also haven't forgotten the war with the Anglo-Saxons, and as a result, their armies will always receive morale boosts when fighting against them. The Great Viking Army will be one of the hardest kingdoms to play as, with their Here King cultural currency mechanic. In a bit of a twist from the legitimacy and heroism mechanics, the Great Viking Army will have two gauges that range from -50 to 50, one for the conquered people of the English under Danelaw rule, and the other for your army, the Viking invaders, under your rule. These gauges will rise and fall based on the actions of your campaign. Please the English by conquering non-English lands and ransoming captured soldiers, and you'll receive benefits of public order, influence, and diplomatic bonuses towards English factions. Please the Danes by sacking settlements and taking on warriors in battles, giving you reductions to upkeep and recruitment costs, while also increasing your replenishment rate. Random dilemmas will also occur during your campaign, asking you to choose one side, which will almost always result in upsetting the other. It's important to note that going into the negative with either gauge can quickly become crippling, either to your empire as a whole with unhappiness and lack of influence, or severely reducing the efficiency of your armies. And as with the other cultural mechanics, your gauges will go down every turn, so again you'll want to keep an eye on your levels at all times. The Kingdom of Northumbria sits close to the Scottish border, ruled by the Viking king Guthred. Rumored to be a slave, Guthred doesn't have very much influence in court, which can cause a trend of low loyalty amongst characters under his rule. Combine that with the fact that Northumbria is surrounded by major powers such as Northliod, Merk, and East Engle, Northumbria is a difficult place to be in. King Guthred and his faction still very much hold a grudge against the murder of King Ragnar, and will receive missions that seek revenge against wrongs committed. All of the missions of Ragnar's legacy will focus on fighting the Anglo-Saxon factions by raiding and occupying their lands, yet won't trigger until Northumbria is at war with an English faction. Taking to the battlefield, Northumbria's armies have a bonus to their charge abilities. They have access to a well-rounded roster of infantry, including Huskarls, shield biters, and berserkers. Their specialty is in their spears, with Northumbrian Thegans, but they can also deploy armored archers early in the period, which isn't even seen in range-specific factions we discussed before. Overall, Northumbria is probably going to be the hardest faction in this title, despite having the advantage of a vassal. Whereas with Strathclute you just don't have a lot going for you, Northumbria has a lot going against them. Suffering from a potential plague of low loyalty and having to balance your campaign between two very different groups of people will be extremely challenging. The best advantages I can think of would be to sack and take a majority, but not all of the non-English settlements in the beginning, as you'll please both groups relatively well that way. But once the time comes and war with the Anglo-Saxons is inevitable, you can either find an ally or a vassal that'll take on those English territories, going for the famed victory style of building tall, not wide. Or you can simply take the hit from taking English settlements and try and offset that by ransoming captives or taking other non-English settlements. Either way, it'll be a great challenge to balance the Here King gauges for both your people and the army groups. Northumbria is definitely an offensive faction in battle. Their Huskarls and Berserkers, along with an axe-heavy roster, combined with a charge bonus to all armies, simply fortifies that style. Your spears are key to your core, but don't be afraid to throw them into the enemy center, then flank with some axemen and swords to really deal some morale damage. Keep your army's Here King gauge up, and you'll be able to field more units, recover faster, giving you the advantage to expand quicker. East Engle has it a bit easier than Northumbria, residing on the most eastern point of the British Isles. Sharing borders with Wessex and Northumbria's vassal, and with access to rich lands in the sea, East Engle will have several avenues on which they can conquer other lands. Their faction leader, Guthrum, King of the Danelaw, is a man of force and aggression. As such, East Engle receive missions that give unique rewards for fighting your neighbors, such as having a faction join your kingdom for simply destroying a raiding army. As is normal, East Engle shares the same units as Northumbria, barring the Northumbrian Thegans, of course. East Engle's unique unit is a Viking Raider unit, being called the Anglican Raiders, eventually leading up to an impressive-looking Anglican champion in the late period. East Engle is the safer of the two great Viking kingdoms, there's no doubt about that. The incentive of Guthrum's missions alone are worth it, even if annexing factions is the only main reward. As East Engle, I'm sure you could cozy up to your Northumbrian brethren and convince them to go to war with Wessex, then take advantage of the turmoil by claiming some settlements of either faction. Their army will also play very similar to the Northumbrians in their offensive style, and it'll be very interesting to see what advantages that their specialty Anglian units have to offer, as the champions in name alone seem extremely formidable in the landscape of Thrones of Britannia. And that is it for the Great Viking Army Kingdoms. As always, be sure to let me know your thoughts on the factions in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed the series so far, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to always stay up to date with my videos. Be on the lookout for the Viking Sea Kings, our final faction breakdown. This is Havoc, and I'm out of here.